Hi, I'm Marion Harney.
My name's Adrian Neilson.
Adrian and I are going to take you on a short walk around the city and show you some of the iconic places and describe how we see the city through our eyes and why we think it's important. We're standing here in front of the medieval abbey, and to our left we've got the entrance to the Roman baths. The archaeology of the Roman bath is intact and in great condition. The building on our right here, which is General Wade's house, it's one of the earliest examples of the use of lime mortar to conserve Bath stone.
The limestone that Bath is built of is very, very beautiful, but it can be quite fragile and subject to decay and erosion and weathering. And so you can see, for instance, on this building where that weathering has happened. But what's interesting about this building, it's a very English approach to conservation. Rather than restore, which is to replace missing elements, what we do is we conserve as found. It's a kind of regarded as a more of an honest approach to conservation.
For me, Bath is a very special place. It's a very beautiful city, surrounded by a wonderful landscape. And our role in looking after this World Heritage Site is to make sure that we conserve that uniqueness for not just for the visitors, but for future generations to come. So we're standing here in the middle of what is essentially the spa culture of Bath.
You have the Roman bars over there, and then if you come down to here, we have the cross bath, which is from the 18th century. If you then go to this building, this represents the renaissance of spa culture in Bath. This is a 21st century development. And what this shows clearly is that the continuity of spa culture in Bath for over 2,000 years. Here's a really good example of a building that was bombed in the Second World War. Just after the Second World War, they decided to rebuild it in exactly the same style. So a very sort of authentic and faithful rebuilding, which is quite unusual in Britain at the time.
Conserving in Bath is not just about conserving the buildings, it's also about conserving the green spaces as well, because there are lots of those. And here in the King's Circus, where we're standing on grass now, was cobbled before, and there were no trees in the centre. And these trees were introduced in the 19th century, so they're about 200 years old now. They will die off in the not too distant future, and the conservation dilemma is, will we replace these trees with new trees or different trees, or will we restore this space to its original urban setting?
Yeah, so that's very interesting, because that feeds into the current thinking about the benefits of greening a city for environmental reasons. And so it will be interesting to see how the kind of architectural conservation argument plays against the idea of kind of improving the environment.
So now we're standing in the Royal Crescent, which is the most iconic set piece of architecture in Bath.
Part of the challenge is how they adapt to modern requirements. So for instance, energy efficiency is a very, very kind of topical discussion in this country.
People have to live in these buildings and they want to stay warm, but we want them to reduce their carbon footprint, and how we approach that in a sensitive manner. Coming to Bath as a student in the Department of Architecture and Civil Engineering, we very much use the city as a case study, both for undergraduate students learning about architecture and how to design good buildings in a very special historic place like this.